So, what happens when you send just one investigator completely alone into three of America's most haunted houses? But here's the twist. The goal isn't to freak out or create drama for the camera. Nope, this is about conducting a truly unbiased ghost hunt. So let's dive into this pretty wild experiment. And that right there, that's the mission statement from our investigator, Gavin. His whole plan was to separate the chilling legends from what might actually be real. He's got all the usual ghost hunting gear, sure, but he's also bringing a huge dose of skepticism. The big question is, do these super famous hauntings actually hold up when there's no one else around? All right, first stop on this paranormal road trip. We're heading to the infamous Sally House in Atchison, Kansas. And let me tell you, this place is notorious for some pretty intense claims, all centered around a super active and supposedly sometimes violent child spirit. You see, the entire legend of this house is built around this just incredibly tragic story. The spirit is supposed to be a little 6-year-old girl named Sally, who apparently died in the most horrible way imaginable right in this house, back when it was a doctor's office. And it's that story, that single event, that really kicks off decades of paranormal claims. So, let's look at how this all got started. The story doesn't really blow up until the 1990s, when the Piaman family moved in, and they reported, well, everything. You've got your classic poltergeist stuff, toys moving on their own, but then it got way more serious, with claims of actual physical attacks on the dad, Tony. Their experiences, which a psychic later backed up, are what really cemented the whole legend of the Sally House. And this is where you really see the clash between the legend and, well, reality. On one side, you have these absolutely terrifying stories of attacks and flying objects. But then you look at what Gavin actually found, at least at first, and it's way more subtle. A light flicks on, sure, but maybe it's just bad wiring. A knock could just be the old house groaning. This right here, this questioning, is what a real unbiased hunt is all about. Okay, so after hours of getting pretty much nothing but these kind of vague, maybe moments, Gavin finds himself in the nursery. This is supposed to be the absolute epicenter of Sally's activity. So he decides, all right, let's just ask a direct question and see what happens. And then he gets this. On his audio recorder, there's a faint but really distinct voice. And it seems to answer his question with just 2 words, 2 really chilling words. You leave. Out of everything that happened that night, this was, without a doubt, the single most compelling piece of evidence he got. Okay, let's leave Kansas behind and head out to our next spot. This one has a history that's even longer and, honestly, even more tragic. We're talking about the Whaley House in San Diego, California. And here, it's not just about one ghost story. It's like a whole layer cake of sadness. I mean, the history here is just grim. Seriously, before they even built the house, the land itself was where they held public executions. Then, once the Whaley family moved in, tragedy struck them directly, most famously when their daughter Violet took her own life inside the house. So you can see why these events have been fueling ghost stories for over 100 years. And what's wild is that almost right away, the investigation picks up something weird. An audio recorder he left running in one of the main rooms seems to capture a full sentence, maybe with the name David in it. It's just this totally random, unexplained voice that appears out of thin air. And this is just a perfect example of what it's really like to be alone in a place like this. He's trying to communicate, and his recorder picks up this long, bizarre sound. And his reaction, totally raw and unscripted, tells you everything. You can just feel how much it freaked him out. Now, this next sequence is really cool. It's like a little paranormal detective story. One of his devices, an EVP machine, spits out 2 words: radio and desk. So he follows that clue downstairs to a desk, which happens to be right near where 2 of the house's biggest tragedies happened. And right there, using a radio, he captures a voice that seems to say, "She's here." Could it be talking about Violet? But, and this is super important, this is where that whole unbiased thing really comes into play. A motion detector starts going nuts. I mean, textbook ghost stuff, right? But then, just a minute later, he figures out what it was. A bunch of kids knocking on the window from outside. It's a perfect reminder of how easy it is to jump to paranormal conclusions. All right, for the grand finale, we're going to probably the weirdest and most legendary house on the list. We're talking about the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose. It's this massive, sprawling mansion that was literally built to be confusing. The story behind this place is it's crazier than any horror movie. The owner, Sarah Winchester, was the heiress to the Winchester rifle fortune. Legend has it a psychic told her she was being haunted by the ghosts of everyone killed by those rifles. And the only way to appease them, she had to just keep building her house 24/7, creating this insane maze of rooms and staircases that lead to nowhere. And just to give you an idea of the scale we're talking about here, this mansion has over 100 rooms. It's a total labyrinth, which, if you believe the stories, was the whole point. Trying to get around in there, even with a map, is a huge challenge. This might have been the most direct and maybe the most intelligent communication he got the whole time. He used a flashlight, the kind that spirits are supposed to be able to turn on and off, and basically had a Q&A session. And he gets these very specific yes answers to his questions, and it seems like he's talking to one of Sarah's sisters who died as a baby. And the weirdness didn't stop there. He's in this old elevator shaft, and a motion detector just starts going off nonstop. A tour guide had actually told him about a story of a dancing spirit in that exact spot. So Gavin kind of figured he was watching a ghost have a little dance party. And yet, in what has to be the most frustrating part of the whole trip, he sets up all his best gear in the famous seance room, like the supposed spiritual center of the entire house, and gets nothing. Complete radio silence. You can feel his frustration, and honestly, who wouldn't be annoyed? So let's wrap this up. After 3 long, lonely nights in 3 of America's most haunted houses, what did this unbiased hunt actually find? Let's look at the final verdict. This really breaks it down nicely. At the Sally house, the best piece of evidence was that one super creepy voice recording. The Whaley house was a total mixed bag. Some compelling stuff, but also some stuff that was easily debunked, which really shows you how tricky this is. And then the Winchester house was definitely the most interactive, with that whole flashlight Q&A and the dancing ghost. So yeah, every house was its own unique experience. But in the end, Gavin himself felt like the whole thing was a little anticlimactic. Even with all those weird moments, he basically said that for places that are supposed to be the most haunted in the country, the amount of activity was actually pretty low compared to other, less famous places he's been. And that really leaves us with the big question, the one he asks all of us. Did he just get unlucky with a few quiet nights? Or maybe, just maybe, the reality of these famous hauntings isn't about the big, scary legends we hear, but more about these small, subtle, unexplained moments. So what do you think?